things that we see here in inner cities are clients sometimes not really thinking with what their comments towards a colleague, just derogatory comments based on their skin color.
The biggest difference is that we encounter it from unwell clients.
It makes you vulnerable.
And we want to try to be able to support them and support one another at the same time.
Most times it doesn't take me by surprise. And so when these things happen, I tend to laugh it up. I was like, yeah, this one doesn't even know enough.
It's just a word, but having to talk about it, if they feel comfortable to talk about it, maybe we can help them and educate them more about that.
Racism is well and alive. It'd be a good start to acknowledge it and then try to find solutions to minimize the damage. I think racism is a part of a lot of settings. I think it's a big part of the society we live in to one degree or another. I think the biggest difference would be our clients are really uninhibited and they tend to have very racial and aggressive outbursts.
From what we see from clients is just derogatory comment based on our skin color, just the body language too.
I think when people think racism, they think blatant, directed racism, like say saying the N-word or doing like a aggressive salute. But I think that it's really insidious. Racism is like a spectrum. There's so many flavors of it.
There's many ways that racism can portray, but these are just some of the ones that we can see here at our work setting.
This is how racism feels like. It makes you feel as if you're not human. It makes you feel that you're always second. You're not good enough. It makes you feel like you're nothing.
It makes you feel sad, it makes you feel, but then as a person, I would go to that person and say, you call me something that I don't appreciate it, and could you please, my name is Alberta, can you call me by my name? And calling me that name really hurts my feelings.
Ottawa Inner City Health is an organization that was made by all the organizations in the community with a mandate to address health needs for people experiencing homelessness. We're healthcare providers, and so we provide mental health services, we provide primary care, we provide some specialty care. Because many of our clients are homeless, many of the services that we provide are provided in places that are like shelters or out on the streets.
It comes in various kinds, right? Some people are aware of it. Some people do it intentionally. Some do it to provoke you, to push you to the edge, to do something. Some people are not even aware of it.
When they push you to that point, how do we handle that? How do you handle that?
I have always tried to look past the name calling, the shaming, the behaviors, the attitude towards me. I know who I am, and I am here not for you, the name calling me. I am past that. If I wasn't good enough to help, I won't be here.
So there's really two reasons why racial diversity is important to inner city health. The first is that people experiencing homelessness come from every background. And one of the things that's really helpful to people is that if they can see people that they can relate to, it really helps them engage and helps them end homelessness and move back into a better life much more quickly. And then the other thing, which is just a reality, is that much of the healthcare workforce represents great racial diversity, and a lot of our staff who work on the front lines, many of those people are actually from newcomer communities, or they represent a great diversity of backgrounds. We have lots of people with lived experience of homelessness or mental illness.
Because it is true about they're calling you the name or they make you feel that small and you tell them you're there to help them, which is a very good point in that, because sometimes I would be saying the same thing.
For me, it's become an expectation. Most times it doesn't take me by surprise. because even within outside work, it's everywhere you turn.
I have to tell myself, okay, this person is mental health. Maybe intentionally they mean it, maybe not. So I have to take a break and think or breathe, like back up for a while, go to a room and just take a breather and then come back and deal with the situation.
The experiences I have felt is just feeling uncomfortable because you're put in a position that you're super vulnerable, only because of your skin color, which is something that you can't even control. This is something that you were born with. Being in that position just feels very uncomfortable to me. I'm pretty sure a lot of my colleagues feel that way, but there's many more emotions you feel.
There's not a lot of opportunities to escalate when you're being argued at or being aggressive towards. I think it's super important that there's a support within that team. When we get uncomfortable and we ignore it or we try to pacify it, it only sends the wrong message.
When we surveyed the staff, nobody was that bent out of shape about what the clients were saying or doing. Everybody kind of got that that was part of the territory of the kind of work that we do. But what was really upsetting to people was whether or not they got support from the people around them and whether or not the way that the situation was resolved or was addressed actually caused them to feel more distressed than they would have felt otherwise. And that was really where the change was needed.
It's super important, right, that we let our organization know that, it shouldn't always be the onus of the person being attacked that has to step in and defend themselves.
One of the reasons Inner City wanted to have an anti-racism policy was because we really wanted to, in a policy way, address the things that actually bother people and actually harm them. And I think that's a little bit different than just be nice. So that was really why it was important to us, because we wanted something that would actually address what we knew was bothering our staff.
The support, I believe, makes a huge difference when people experience racism, is just someone to talk to. Even though it's very uncomfortable, speaking to someone sometimes just removes those rocks out of your back.
The anti-racism policy really just outlines what it is that we expect from everybody that works in the organization in terms of how they take care of each other when racist incidences occur.
I'm hoping that my colleague will step in. Even though it is uncomfortable, just step in for me. I'm not in a good position. I am vulnerable. So if you could step in and tell them that person's wrong and that person should leave or do what they have to do, that would be a huge support to me.
It is a policy which says, if somebody has experienced a racist attack, here's what we expect you as their co-worker or as their manager or their supervisor, this is what's expected of you.
If you're uncomfortable doing it, at least taking me aside and just being there makes a difference too.
There's not a lot of room to shy away and to understand that that person has experienced a lot of discrimination and racism just for the simple fact of being different nationality or color. And it's super important that we handle it as a group.
The policy was developed by a group of employees in the organization who, are racially diverse and who represent different backgrounds. And so it really is a coming together, a consensus of what people who've worked here, many of them for a very long time, what they said that they found helpful.
I am working on a racism group, so to the staff I train, I said you can actually join our group because the more people we have on our group will help us. And if you have a problem, if anybody gives you a problem about race or something, come talk to me. If I can't help it, then you go to your supervisor. But that's one of the things I try to train into my orientation with other staff.
So if we treat ourselves with respect, treat ourselves as one and defend one another, I think that the clients will just, they will follow suit.
So hopefully staff will have read the anti-racism policy. I think it's actually one of our more exciting policies to read, and we've had great feedback from other people who've seen it. But certainly, if they want to know more about it, if they want more explanation, should speak to whoever their manager is, or even to their coworkers, or I think really importantly, to the people that are part of the anti-racism working group.
As a new person, if you feel like you are uncomfortable in what that person is saying to you, report it to your other colleagues or report it to your supervisor, because as a person, no one should be bullying anybody or disrespecting anybody at any race or color. It's not a place for that.
A racism to one is a racism to all. Inner City is a great place to work.
I think that that's been sort of the magic of the group, is they've been able to have really meaningful and intense conversations about, pretty tough subjects without being hurtful or without taking things really personally. And I think in many ways it is a lesson to all of us about, how we can talk about these issues and to do it in a way that's not hurtful, but that makes us feel more the same and more together by the end of it.
I think the united front is always the most supportive way to approach racial violence. It's very important that other people step up, even though it's a really uncomfortable topic, and our knee-jerk reaction is to retreat. Some things you can't ignore.
Taking the time to speak to someone that you are comfortable with, showing your feelings about how you felt about that makes a huge difference.
Racism is not acceptable. In general, it's not acceptable here, it's not acceptable there.
As a society, as a world, we're never going to be as good as we can be if we don't get on top of this. We've got to figure it out for sure.
It makes a difference in me and my colleagues that I can talk about this group. It makes me feel that there is something. We cannot change what's out there. We will never change it, but every small bit that we can help somebody else to know that there is help.